Hello and welcome to my tutorial on 3D art in the games industry. Is it for me? Focusing on the role of environment artist. So what is 3D art? It's broken up into three main categories. That's 3D modelling and texturing, animation and 3D rendering. 3D modelling is creating the form of the object in 3D space, and texturing is where we give it a 2D texture made in Photoshop, for example, and it's then applied with a material in a 3D package. Animation is where we're giving motion and movement to that 3D asset. Rendering is where we create an image or a video of those 3D assets for purposes such as marketing and project realization. 3D art job roles in the gaming industry is split into three categories. You've got your character, your prop and environment artist. However, sometimes the role of prop artist and environment artist can be rolled into one job description at certain companies. So the character artist can create the lead characters, the background characters, NPCs. They can be humans, creatures, robots. The environment artist will create the environments. This is everything to do with the terrain and the environment, such as buildings, foliage, water, skyboxes. And props is really anything that falls in between environments and characters. The role of environment artist does not include sound and audio, such as creating music, dialogue, special effects sounds. As I've discussed, animation is a separate discipline, so the job role does not include animation to a bigger extent. I mean, sometimes you might be asked to make your object pivot or have a basic movement, but this isn't always the case. The job description doesn't include design of the level, so where the character can and can't go, where the gameplay is. Our day-to-day work is filled up of 3D modelling, creating textures and placement. The 3D modelling and texturing really goes hand in hand, so you need to think about where you're going to be putting cuts for UV mapping and symmetry in your model. So I'll first do an art block out, so this is more silhouette and your basic colours and shape and such. Then I'll get it in game, I'll test it. The point of this might sound obvious, but it's to make sure it works, make sure your textures are working and the model's working okay, getting no errors, and then it's also to test that it works alongside other assets in the game, and it's also meeting the requirements of the design. Then I'll complete the model and the texture. I'll sit down with the lead environment artist who will give me feedback. I'll also get feedback from other members of the team, such as the other environment artists, QA, animators who may require me to split the asset into different parts for their animation. And then I'll go back to the level editor and place it in all the other places in the game environment where it needs to be. Textures are split into two different ways. So you've got your unique texture maps and then you've got your tiled texture maps. A lot of the environments are created using tiled texture maps, and this is really just for performance related issues and constraints. And then you've got your unique texture map. So in this instance that I'm showing, I made a plane. So although yes, I've used symmetry on the texture and the model, it's still unique. It's not like I've taken a metal texture and tiled that along the surface of the plane. I've actually created a unique texture for that plane. When we get a concept for the environment, it's easy to feel a little bit overwhelmed because the environments can be vast and epic and include a lot of detail. So really we have to step back and break it up. The first stage in breaking it up is to determine what will be terrain and what will be 3D models. So in your level editors like UDK, Unity, they have terrain tools such as creating just your general land, cliffs, water and that kind of thing, versus the 3D models like cliffs that you might want more high detail. It will be buildings, details on the buildings. Then we'll break up that into work tasks. So this would be like, example, rock 1, rock 2, rock 3, building 1, building 2, detail 1 and that kind of thing. So really just breaking them up. And then we have to work as an environment team to make sure that we're communicating really well to know who's doing what, who's using the level editor when, so there's no overlap. You don't want to overwrite other people's work, and you also just want to be on the same page in terms of the art style. And also we will have like daily updates usually, so we could have in the morning we do meetings or short stand-ups where we say, okay, this is what I'm doing today, but also I find the informal chats are just as important as the formal meetings. So by this I mean like your coffee break or your tea break. I find that you'll be chatting to your colleagues about your work, and they might mention like an issue they've had, and they've already gone through the process of solving that issue, and maybe you haven't yet, so talking really saves time with when we're creating our artwork. I just wanted to mention the map and level editors. There's a few available, most notably UDK and Unity, but a lot of companies, they do have their own in-house tools. So if you do work for a company that has their own in-house tools, don't worry, you will get the training and support to be able to use these to do your job. So the progression of a 3D artist is usually the following formats within a company. You have your junior environment artists, so usually they're possibly in their first job role in the gaming industry, so they've got the least on-the-job training. They're new to the pipeline and the constraints. They might use more of their colleagues' time for training and extra support, and they'll generally have more of a slower work speed. Environment artists will obviously have more experience, but because they understand the pipeline better, they'll do their job in a way where they're doing it because they've got experience. They're not necessarily doing something because they've hit a roadblock. They've already hit that roadblock previously, and so are adapting their work pipeline because of it. So they're really quicker at their job. Then you've got the senior environment artist who not only will they do their job, they will help others and spend a lot more of their time in training others, giving them extra support. They'll also be more vocal in feedback sessions. So looking at the technology for the job that we do, I find that the development tools that we use is really being driven by the abilities of the gaming platforms and also the new ones that are released. So there's always something new to learn, there's always new consoles coming out. The packages that we use, even if we don't use the new software, the software that we are using, like for example if you always use Macs, there's new tools being brought out, there's new plugins, there's always something new. So you've really got to keep yourself up to date with the technology and the platforms that we're developing for, in order to be the best environment artist that you can be, and also to be competitive. When you're applying for a job, you want to make sure that you're up to date with the development tools, the gaming platforms, because you can quickly become outdated in your job role. So looking at the skills and qualifications that you'll need to become an environment artist, there's two roads really. One is more formal training and one is more informal. So the formal would be universities and colleges offering courses, which can be great. But for me personally, I didn't choose this route because I found that at the time the courses available were more generalised. So a course would involve doing design, doing animation and doing 3D, which is great if you're not sure exactly which part of the game industry you want to work in. So it's sort of nice to really do a bit of everything to decide what you want to do. But for me, like I say, it wasn't specific enough for the amount of time and the cost involved. But as time progresses, I find that the courses are getting a lot more specific and a lot better. The other ways to do it are informal, such as online workshops, digital tutors, Eat3D, CG Talk, online resources such as this video, for example, YouTube, and other forums. There are other resources, such as when you're using a software, hit F1. I find this is quite underrated and people don't use it enough, so hit the F1 key, see what information is there. You may work in a game studio, but you might not be actually doing the job role of environment artist. So say you're doing localization or QA. So go over to talk to the environment artists. In my last job role, I was using my lunchtime, and in evenings at home I would look at their demos that they had done and give critique and feedback and just give lessons. So I'm sure that if you go and talk to the environment artists, that they will give you some help and support, and if they don't have the time to do that, I'm sure they'll point you in the direction of where you can go to get that help, training and support. The other way of getting more information is just networking. So maybe you might not have a direct friend who's in the industry, but you might know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So really network. Also, I'd like to mention that it's great in our industry that based on a demo alone you can get a job. It's not like when you're a heart surgeon, where luckily they do have to have like years of on-the-job training and university training behind them. So what else do you need? Well, you need a demo. Nowadays this is in the form of a website, so really you're showing off your best 3D work. This will be showing the models, showing the wireframe and showing the textures. Now you don't have to show the wireframe and textures of everything that's on your site, but it would be great to actually just show some so that the people reviewing your demo can get an indication of how good you are with texture optimization and modeling optimization, seeing where you're putting your cuts for UVs and your models. You may have videos on your website showing maybe in-game assets. Maybe you've created a level in UDK. Also, I've had questions before where people say to me, oh, should I put just my high-res stuff? And my answer to that is, I've got on jobs where the company have looked at my low-res DS work and thought, okay, you know how to make really cool assets with low poly counts, low textures, and that's why they've hired me. So I know some people might judge higher resolution things with higher textures as better, but they're just different. It's a different skill set to create a high poly model than it is to create a really low res model with a low res texture. So ideally do both, do a mix. If there is a specific company you want to work for, look at the games they've created. Create something similar. I wouldn't literally recreate what they've done, but create something in the same tone, with the same artistic style of what they've done. And this really is to show them that you can create the similar art style and with similar poly counts and maybe texture resolutions that they're doing, so they'll know from looking at your demo you'll fit right in. And what I would say is, if you do want to apply a company, it's better to wait for a job opening. So you've gone to job websites and you've actually seen a job posting, then send your application in. I find that it's not really productive to send in a speculative application because, as you can appreciate, lead artists don't have the time to look at every demo that comes in. So do apply when there is a job. And when you do apply, if you've applied when you're unsuccessful and later down the road you want to try again, when you're trying again, make sure your demo is updated, put something new on there, maybe improve something that's already existing on there. What I like to do is, when I go for an interview, I like to take in a hard copy, or sometimes I'll actually just send in a hard copy of my demo to a company. The reason I do this, I know it sounds old school to send in a DVD with a cover, is I find that when they actually see the cover, they've seen your artwork. Whereas if you send them a link to your website, they actually have to click on it, click on the link, load the website. Whereas if they've actually got a hard copy in their hand, you're forcing them to look at your work within seconds. They don't have to do anything. They've got it. They're looking at it. So I like to do that. And it's also good in an interview to have the hard copy with you, because again, if you've updated anything since you handed it to them the last time, you can give them another copy. And also, like I say, you've got the cover on there. You're forcing them to look at your work. So I like to, like I say, bring in a hard copy or send in a hard copy. If you have any questions about what I've spoken about in this session, then please put your questions in the comment section below and I'll answer them in a follow-up video. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.